Hey, machine knitters. So we are finally today it's an exciting day because once we connect our shoulders, then we can try our sweater on, and that can be one of the most exciting parts of making your own garments is the actual trying on stage. So I have some tips for you today, and my very first one is about saving time. So if we haven't met yet, I'm Danielle from LoveYourKnittingMachine.com, and I am helping you guys make your very first sweater. So this is kind of like a knit along. If you haven't signed up yet, you still can. These videos aren't going anywhere. I know lots of people have asked that. I'm not deleting them. I'm not taking them down. They'll still be available. But you do want to sign up and make sure you're getting the emails each day. So I'll put a link in the description so that you can still sign up if you want to. And then the links will have all of the extra information you need, how to find the pattern, and some extra videos to watch in order to do certain parts of the pattern. So my tip for today is how to save time when you're making a sweater, making a garment, making whatever you are working on your machine. So what I have found for me is that when I sit down at my machine, I'm like, oh, what was I working on? What tension am I supposed to be at? My machine's not threaded. What yarn am I using anymore? Because when you finish a piece, you might have just been doing a bind off and suddenly your yarn is gone and you have no idea what yarn you were using. Or you don't know where in your pattern you were, what step you were on. Or if you were doing a specific pattern, which is the sweater I'm working on now, I'm doing patterning. So I'm like, oh, what row was I on? What pattern? What part am I supposed to do next? What needles are supposed to be in hold? And so what I have found and what I have started doing is setting up my carriage and my machine, the whole setup, before I step away from my machine. So I make sure I'm on the right tension that I need to be on for the next step. I make sure that my machine is threaded for whatever the next step might be. So if I just finished the back of my sweater, then I'm going to rethread my machine with waste yarn and my main yarn to make sure that I can just grab that, make sure it's already threaded in the carriage so that I can just start knitting when I come back. If I need to set up needles for ribbing or for a 1x1, I will do that before I step away from my machine. If I need my machine to be in holding position or in a tuck position or something, then I will make sure I hit that button. And I do the same thing if I am in the middle of a project, because sometimes halfway up my sweater, one of the kids will need something. And so I just make sure that whatever step I'm on, if I need to hit that tuck button to do the next row, then I do it. Because otherwise, when I come back, I will forget what I'm doing. It takes at least 5 or 10 minutes to remember, and I inevitably forget a step. Like I'll forget to hit that tuck button, so then I have to rip out my row. So hopefully that helps you in saving some time when you're on the next step. And it also prevents that, I don't know how to do the next step, right? It keeps us from not wanting to go back to our machine as well. So today is the sleeves. Now the sleeves can take a little bit longer than the back, say, because when you're working on your sleeves, you are decreasing, right? We don't want our sleeves to be this width the whole way down. So you're decreasing as you go along the sleeve length. And you're also, for this pattern, you're putting your shoulders from the underarm to the other underarm back on the machine, and then you're knitting the sleeve right onto the body of the sweater. And so that putting the sweater back on the machine takes some time. So it just takes a little bit of manual manipulation, right? And that just adds a tiny bit of time onto your project for the day. So what I suggest you guys do, some of you may have connected the shoulders yesterday. If you didn't, you need to do that. And then you'll want to knit at least one sleeve today. Now, if you have time, go ahead and knit the other sleeve. And if not, that's okay. Just do the other sleeve tomorrow because tomorrow's your seaming day. But I want to know, did you know that at the end of your sleeve, like most sleeves have a cuff of ribbing? That's the way this sweater is if you have a ribber. If not, you can do a mock rib at the end or a hung hem. So what I always do is when I get to the end of my sleeve and then I need to do the ribbing, I just move my stitches to the ribber bed. Whatever stitches I need to do, I move them. I don't know if that's something new and different. I just know that patterns are always written with the rib first, probably because of that selvage edge, and then they're knit down to the shoulder, and then you have to attach them later. And I think that's silly. So that's how I do mine. When you are doing a mock rib, it gets a little tricky picking up those or where to put it back on the machine. So that can take a little bit of extra time at the end too. Okay, I like to use the latch tool bind off, and this is what it will look like. It does look a little bit different depending on whether you're doing it from the left or from the right. But you can also do, so if you want, so this is my latch tool bind off. This is as wide as this is going to get. The latch tool bind off is not a stretchy bind off, but it's loose enough that it's going to stretch a decent amount. I mean, your sweater's not going to stretch a ton anyway. But you can bind off around the gate pegs if you don't like the latch tool bind off, or you can do the back stitch bind off. The back stitch bind off gives you a stretchier bind off, so if that's something that you're concerned about on the cuffs, then you can do that. It is also the longest, the most time consuming bind off. So, but I do have a video on how to do the back stitch bind off if that's what you want to do. My video is called like the stretchiest bind off or something. All right, hopefully you have figured out that in the pattern, the chest measurement was like a full circumference. It's like your full chest measurement. The cuff circumference is also the same thing. So the cuff measurement, make sure you put that in as all the way around. It's not just when you lay it flat, half of it. Okay, so that's all the way around. Now, if you want to change your pattern, specifically the sleeves, this is not meant to be a short sleeve sweater. So if you choose to do short sleeves, I think you're going to end up with really wide sleeves. I don't think it's going to bind off enough, decrease enough. So you'll want to do, you know, mid-length or longer sleeves for this sweater. And I think that you guys are all doing an awesome job. Remember, sweaters take a lot of time. It's a process. And there's lots of new stuff to learn if you've never knit a sweater before. So, and especially if you haven't knit much other stuff as well. There's just a huge learning curve. So I know you guys are all doing great. Don't worry about how long it's taking you. If you're just at the back, that's fine. You can keep going even after the challenge is over. But I did want to let you know that I have something that I want to talk to you guys about tomorrow. Something I've been thinking about because a week kind of seems like a short amount of time for a sweater. So, and then one other thing, I should have mentioned this first, but tomorrow is going to be the seaming. So when I do my sleeves, at the very end when you're binding off, you want to leave a long tail. Well, you can decide how long a tail you want to leave, but what I do is I leave a really long tail and then I bind off. I'm able to sew all the way up my sleeve and all the way down to the very bottom of the sweater. Okay, so if that's something that you want to do, make sure you leave a long enough tail to go all the way down your arm and then all the way down to the end of your sweater. That works for me. If you feel like sometimes the yarn gets tangled, right, when you have that long of a string at the end. So if you don't like that, you can split it up. into two. Some people will leave a long tail at the beginning so that they can sew up to the underarm, and then they'll leave a tail not quite as long at the end of the sleeve so they can just seam up the sleeve. So those are the two ways to do that. And I think that's it for today. So I hope you guys are having fun. Make sure you check the Facebook page. You can leave questions there. You can share your pictures of your project there. And same goes with email. Like if you have questions, you can email me. I just read a bunch of your emails, and I thank you guys for responding and asking questions on emails too. I love hearing how you're doing with the sweater. So have a great day, and make sure you give your knitting machine some love today.